Most new pilots think they can fly at night until they suddenly realize how dark nighttime flying truly is and reality kicks in. Let's fix that. I'm Jack, a commercial pilot in CFI. Flying has always been a passion of mine, and I love being able to share that experience as a pilot and instructor for those who are curious about soaring through the sky. I hope you enjoy today's video, that you fasten your seatbelt, and that you enjoy the ride. Hi, my name is Jack. I'm a commercial pilot in a CFI/II, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a snapshot of what's important with nighttime flying. A decent chunk of my flying has come from nighttime operations and from nighttime flying, so teaching my students how to fly at night is nothing new for me and is always a prepared lesson. Alright, so let's get right into it. The basics of nighttime flying come from both Part 1 in the FAR AIM, as well as from a bunch of letters that were sent from people to the FAA regarding what the definition of nighttime is, as well as just regarding currency and kind of how people qualify for nighttime flying. So really, the gist of being able to fly at night comes from the definitions of evening civil twilight and morning civil twilight, and when you're within that 1 hour window of after sunset to 1 hour before sunrise. Once you're in this window, you're able to log everything as nighttime flying, and that's when things really start to kick in, as with nighttime flying, there comes a lot of different things that you really need to understand, with things like visual illusions and your depth perception from the airport and the runway being daytime to now transitioning into nighttime. And that is what I'll highlight in this video with a student I recently had a night flight with. So the first thing that I want to talk about with nighttime flying is just really the idea of acclimating, right? Nighttime flying usually starts when it's mostly dark outside. What I like to do with my student pilots is I like to give them about 30 minutes of a window when we actually get in the airplane and start it before we even count it as nighttime, because really acclimating from day to night is very key. There is a window difference of looking at an airport in the daytime versus at night, simply because it is just super dark. You don't have any visual references to look at except for the airport lighting and the other city lights that you might have in your area. So really trying to see what goes on with approaches in your landings is going to take some time to get used to. So it's always going to be rough with them for the first couple landings. Next up is the visual illusions. So with visual illusions, your eyes operate differently during the day than they do with the night. And that's kind of what I explain here on the ground with my student talking about your rods and your cones.
Alright, so fundamentals of night flying. There's two real big fundamentals. First is your eyes, right? It's going to be hard to see. Really hard to really understand like what your eyes are going to be telling you. So when you do go fly at night, you want to understand that everything is going to look blurry in the middle, but not the sides. Because remember, you have those rods and your cones. When it's dark, your eyes and the sides are going to be a little better. So scan a lot slower, so you give your eyes more time to look and give yourself the better eyesight. And the second thing with night is you got to take your time with actually being able to fly the airplane, because at night, with the eyes having to compensate for that. If you don't know where the runway is, you're not going to know when to flare, when to pull back, when to put the plane on the ground, and it's going to feel a little weird. So that's where night flying is very important. Is you just kind of got to feel it out, see what it's like, and treat it just like you're a brand new pilot again.
Okay.
You do that, you'll be just fine. It's not too different, but it's weird at first. So.
Your eyes are going to need to take some time to adjust to the nighttime operations, knowing that that blind spot is going to be in the middle. So what you're going to need to do is to really look at the runway in a different perspective, knowing that you have a canvas that's all black except for the runway lights on the sides and sometimes in the middle. And so you only have those tools to be able to use and guide yourself into the runway. And so what I always tell my students is just to take their time, knowing that they can't see anything, to just really get a familiar feel for what the airport looks like, and to just kind of have the idea in their head of being able to see what a landing looks like in their head, knowing that they don't have any reference to the ground outside. Then the last point that I like to make honestly with all my students is the depth perception. This is something not a lot of CFIs talk about because it kind of blends in with the visual illusions, but the reason why I talk about it is, simply put, the runway is invisible. You have no sight to the runway whatsoever at night except for those little lights on the side like I talked about earlier. You have no idea where it is until you get right over the top of it. And that's where people really struggle at night, is being able to understand that the runway looks a lot further away at night because you can't see it until you start to flare and land, and all of a sudden you hit the ground. That's going to be the hardest part with night flying and transitioning from day to night, as I talk about that with my student as we're coming into land on the runway.
The wind's going to kind of be a problem too. Start to see the runway now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so I'll help you out with this first landing here. So, with this, remember to level out over the runway and just kind of feel the sink. We don't want to land on that front nose, we want to land on the back too. So kind of what we want to aim for is just something that we can see. So you can kind of see the 1,000 footers there just by a little bit. Go flaps 30 here. Nice and easy, keep that nose pointed down. All right, have you made the runway?
Yes.
Cool, so you can start taking that power out if you want. Don't take it out too much because we need just a little bit here. Good. Now, when you think you're close, start pulling back. So right here. Yeah, good. We're gonna need a little bit more radio on. See, we're kind of on the far side of the runway there. Keep pulling, so this is gonna be kind of weird. Yeah, there you go, just like this. Yeah, good, and then just... That was all you. Now we're gonna push on the brakes here, so flaps up. Yeah, pull back. Because we gotta do full stops here.
What helps with my students is after they've already got a few landings under their belt, if they're really struggling, I like to try and dim everything in the cockpit from the instrument panel to the lights and just literally leave it blank in the cockpit so all they see is the outside environment in the airport. Because once they can get an idea of what that looks like without having any extra light hitting their eyes, they have less distractions to worry about and all they get to do is just fly the airplane. Ultimately, with these three topics, the only way you can understand them is to actually go out and fly. Daytime is a lot different from night, and you really got to understand why these concepts matter going into it, so that way you can actually adjust your plan of action going in from just not knowing what it looks like to then going down and nailing each landing you get. Not every night is the same when it comes to weather, clouds, airport environments, and so on, and some nights are darker than others simply because you may not have the moon during your night. So when you have different types of weather, whether it's great visibility, bad visibility, you have clouds, moon, either way, it's still going to be dark. You're not going to have a good time for the first couple landings because you need to get adjusted and you need to kind of see what it looks like for the first couple. And so once you usually get in that rhythm, it all just kind of clicks in your brain like it does every flight. The topics that I just covered are what 99% of student pilots struggle with, and that's what I emphasize in all my nighttime landings and my nighttime lessons that I have. Whenever I do night flights with my students, I always shoot for 8 to 10 landings because I know that the first 3 to 5 are going to be brutal. So after they get those out of their system, get used to the night, see all the visual illusions and the depth percentage, it makes it a whole lot easier to be able to understand kind of when to flare, when to land, when to touch down, and then they just get that sight picture memorized in their head, and then it just clicks like that for them to where the next time they go night fly, it's all the same as if it were day. And the whole goal I treat it with that is just to set them up for success after they pass their check ride. They already have such little experience, so by getting them a little more nighttime under their belt, they'll feel a little more confident knowing that if the sun does set on them, they'll be able to land the plane with confidence and as best they can. So, with all that being said, I hope you learned something from this and that you generated 2 takeaways for your nighttime experience, whether you're going to go fly as a student pilot or you're a CFI teaching student pilots how to fly at night. My goal is to help you fly a little better and to give you just a little bit of information to maybe help you out, and so I hope that I did that with this. And if you did, I hope you choose to stick around as I have more things that I'll be talking about in the future, as well as just a bunch of other places where I share this content. If you want to check me out in other places, the first thing you can do is subscribe to me down below in the subscription bar. I'm going to be posting more content like this, more things that you might like in the future, so I hope you choose to stick around and follow that. Second thing is I have an Instagram that's also linked down below. You can go check and see other content that I post, as well as just like daily life stuff that happens that you may or may not be interested in. Lastly, I have a website down below if you want to go check it out. I've been doing a lot recently on there with just kind of making it a little better, a little spruced up, but what I'm going to be starting here pretty soon is I'm going to be doing an online ground school where it's not necessarily going to be me teaching all of the concepts of aviation and kind of how to get your stuff, but rather if you're struggling with specific topics, specific issues, maybe you need a little more research or a little more light on something that you just don't quite understand and just want someone to kind of help you understand that better, that's kind of what I specialize in, is just diving into those specific topics and helping you understand them better. If that's something that you're interested or you just kind of want a little more help on something, I would love to help you, connect you, and just kind of get you the information that you need. So all you need to do if you want to get help is you can go down below to my website. On there I'm going to have a form you can fill out and we can set up a time to chat. So, with all that being said, thank you so much for coming and watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you in another future video. See ya!